I reported here yesterday how Bank of America is pulling the plug on some small business loans, telling credit holders to pay up in full all at once or face new terms with higher rates of interest. Bank of America responded to our report saying it's committed to supporting small businesses, but do the facts back up the talk? Joining me now, Lloyd Chapman, president of the American Small Business League, and Ami Kazar, founder and CEO of Multifunding, which helps small businesses get loans. Lloyd, I'll start with you. Bank of America defending its good name here. Is it really true that they're pulling this money? Is it really true they're making it harder on small business? And what is the impact likely to be?
They're obviously pulling the money on small business. It's been reported by the LA Times. It's an outrage. The purpose of TARP and all the economic stimulus programs was to give those banks money to give it to the small businesses. I think B of A got $90 billion, and now they're pulling the money. It's an outrage. I can't believe that Congress is allowing this to happen. I can't believe the president's allowing this to happen. And notice this. Notice who's not complaining. The groups around the country that claim to represent small businesses, not a peep out of them. The U.S. Chamber, because they don't represent small businesses. They represent Fortune 500 firms.
Okay, well, I want to show some real numbers here from Multifunding on what this has meant. So Bank of America's small business lending, according to Ami's group, today, $24 billion. How much was it in 2007? $34 billion. So according to your own numbers here, Bank of America is lending less to small business. What's going on here?
Bank of America is lending less, and they're shedding loans, not just this quarter, but historically. Just this quarter alone, in the third quarter of last year, they shed $400 million of loans to small businesses, and these are loans with a balance of $1 million or less. They don't like to lend to small business. It's not easy. It's complicated, and they would just rather deal with the big Fortune 500 companies and clients that need money, and leave the little guys alone.
All right, Lloyd, so what's going on here? Bank of America, let me read you the statement from Bank of America, and I'll let you respond. Okay, Lloyd? They say we are not cutting or closing credit lines for our small business clients across the board. The changes affect a very, very small percentage of our small business customers. Bank of America has as strong a commitment to supporting small business as anyone in the industry. Is Bank of America worse than other big banks when it comes to lending to small business?
It looks like it right now, particularly after they got $90 billion, but quite frankly, you've seen a pattern since TARP was passed where all the big banks are pulling back lending to small businesses. And that's the opposite of what they were supposed to do. The whole purpose of TARP was to give small businesses access to capital.
Well, I think that was one of the goals, surely. But let me tell you this about that. I know how our viewers feel about this. Giving all this money to banks, you expect we were there for them when they needed us. Now we need them, and they're not here for us. I think that's the frustration in a nutshell. And I mean, is that what you hear from your customers?
We see it all the time. We hear stories from small businesses across the country. We've had their credit lines cut by big banks. They've spent months trying to apply for a loan at a big bank, only to be strung along and strung along and strung along, and they throw up their hands in frustration. And the smaller banks, the community banks across the country, are the ones that are helping small businesses. Bank of America, as the #1 largest bank in the country, ranked by deposits, should be ashamed of their lending record.
Well, I'm going to give your numbers right here because you have a report card on Bank of America looking at the ratio of loans to deposits. That ratio, 2.51%. That ranks the nation's largest bank in terms of lending to small business, 6,128th out of 6,700. Think about that. I mean, you say they're great as F.
We give them an F. The average bank in America uses 7.75% of their domestic deposits to make loans to small businesses. Thousands of the banks, the smaller banks, are using 25% or more, and we give them an A. Bank of America gets an F. 2.61% of their deposits used to make small business loans.
Lloyd, I mean, what do we do about this? I mean, you know, we're complaining about it. We're talking about it publicly. You know, I'm trying to be even-handed here. I'm reading the Bank of America statement. We've repeatedly asked Bank of America to come on this show and defend their record. Should these big banks, particularly the ones that we gave money to, and of course, Bank of America, like the others, they paid the money back, should they be required in some way to lend money?
Absolutely. That was the purpose of TARP. The purpose was to give that money to banks to give it to small businesses. But you know what? This is part of a pattern that you see in Washington of what I call anti-small business policies. You know, the government's giving small business contracts to Fortune 500 firms. President Obama's dismantling the minority contracting program. You see kind of an anti-small business sentiment, I think, coming out of Washington. And if anyone disagrees, show me a policy in the last 5 years that has directed money to small businesses. Show me a program that's directed infrastructure spending to small businesses.
Well, I mean, the president himself says, I'm for small business. Small business, they're the hiring engine of the economy. He's certainly been interested and pursued a lot of tax breaks for small business. Do you believe that the president is not behind small business?
I believe the president would like to help small business, but they don't know how to do it. There are such contradictions, and the government focuses on the SBA program as the be-all solution.
What's wrong with that?
And this SBA program is a good program. Bank of America actually has one of the poorest records of a small business SBA lender in the country. The issue is that SBA lending is just a fraction of small business loans.
All right.
The data that we use, which comes from the FDIC report, looks at all small business lending across for any loan with a balance of $1 million or less. And the community banks, the smaller community banks.
They are the ones with the real track record here,
right?
right?
The ones helping small business.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's where small businesses should go to get help.
You know, we've said it before, and we'll say it again. Those small banks, they really go a long way. Lloyd and Ami, thanks so much for helping us out tonight. Fascinating conversation. You know, keep us informed on the story. Let us know what's going on, because this is something that's vitally important to our viewers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, another note on Bank of America. A Florida man, listen to this, almost lost his home because of 80 cents. Tom Muti reportedly underpaid one of his mortgage payments by that amount. This is Bank of America we're talking about again, because of a typo. The Tampa Tribune says while paying over the phone, he mistakenly hit the 0 on his keypad instead of the 8. Because of the shortfall, he was told he was now ineligible for the loan modification program from the Bank of America, and the only option left for him was a short sale of his home. After taking his case to the local media, Bank of America apologized and now is in the process of converting his trial modification into a permanent one. Now, while the story seems to have a happy ending for Tom, it shouldn't take public outrage for a company like Bank of America to do the right thing. I, for one, I'm sad about these stories that keep popping up. And again, Bank of America, come be on the show. We want to talk to you directly. Still ahead, is Mitt Romney a sure thing in New Hampshire? We'll have the latest polls out of the next primary state. And while the payroll tax cut extension may mean short-term relief, it's going to come back to bite you later in the form of mortgage fees. I'll explain after the break.
So I say to you, come on.